AITA for telling my stay-at-home wife that if she doesn't stop her $1,500 monthly beauty spending, she needs to get a job or go on allowance. I, 34M, have been married to my wife, 34F, for several years now, and on paper, we should be in a good place. With the same age, we have kids who are old enough to ride the bus to school on their own, and we live a fairly comfortable life. I work full-time to provide for the family, and she's a stay-at-home mom, or more accurately at this point, a stay-at-home wife. When we first got married, I remember her talking all the time about her big plans. She wanted to be a businesswoman, in her words. She'd get excited about starting her own thing, making something out of herself beyond just being at home. At the time, I was supportive. I believed her. I thought maybe one day she'd put those plans into action. But the years went by, and nothing ever happened. The businesswoman ideas turned into half-baked side projects that never even made it past the talking stage. Eventually, the talk just faded away altogether. Instead, her daily routine fell into a pattern. Once the kids leave for school in the morning, she goes back to bed. She'll sleep until late morning, then get up and head out to Starbucks for a coffee and a bagel, sitting there for a while scrolling on her phone. After that, she usually goes to the gym. Once the workout is over, she'll spend the rest of the day shopping, sometimes buying, sometimes just browsing. At first, I didn't think much of it. Everyone needs some downtime, right? And she's home when the kids get back. She makes sure they're fed. She takes care of the household basics. But over time, I couldn't help but notice the spending. It wasn't just a coffee here and there or a pair of new shoes once in a while. It started adding up. There were months where she spent upwards of $1,500 just on herself. Clothes, nails, hair appointments, makeup, eyebrows, fake eyelashes, and packages with names like baddie or fuckboy. All of it stacked up. And while I want my wife to feel good about herself, I couldn't ignore what this was doing to our finances. We have a mortgage, bills, kids who will eventually need things like braces, college funds, emergencies we should be saving for. I'm not made of money, and we don't have the kind of income that allows for $1,500 to just disappear every month into self-care. The more I watched her routine, the more I started to feel resentful. Here, I was working day in and day out, carrying the financial weight of the household, while she spent her days going back to bed, sipping coffee at Starbucks, going to the gym, and shopping. It felt less like a partnership and more like I was the one funding a lifestyle she felt entitled to. I tried to push the resentment down, but it kept resurfacing. I remembered those early conversations when she told me she wanted to be a businesswoman, when she made it sound like she wanted to build a career, contribute, create something. And now here we were, almost a decade later, with none of those promises even attempted. I knew I couldn't keep bottling it up forever. The spending wasn't slowing down, and the frustration was eating at me. Sooner or later, something was going to give. Once I started really paying attention, the pattern became impossible to ignore. After the kids left for school in the morning, she'd crawl back into bed and sleep for another couple of hours. By the time she got up, it was already mid to late morning. She'd get dressed, grab her keys, and head out to Starbucks for her daily order, a coffee and a bagel, and sit there, phone in hand, scrolling through social media for a while. From there, it was straight to the gym. I can't fault her for wanting to stay in shape, and honestly, I'm glad she cares about her health. But the gym trips weren't just about fitness. They became a gateway to the next part of her routine, shopping. Some days she would wander through boutiques and department stores, texting me pictures of outfits with captions like, "Should I get this one?" Other days she'd come home with bags full of clothes, makeup, or hair products. Even when she didn't buy anything, she still spent hours browsing. The problem was when she did buy. Some months, it felt like every other day she was swiping the card. Clothes, nails, hair appointments, eyelash extensions, microblading for her eyebrows. Boxes of false eyelashes with names like baddie or fuckboy. Things that, to me, felt like over-the-top indulgences. One month, I sat down and totaled it all. She had spent nearly $1,500 just on herself. Not groceries, not things for the kids, just her own self-care and shopping habits. I know self-care is important. I don't want to come off like I expect my wife to live without makeup or clothes or things that make her feel good. But when the spending gets to the point where it threatens our budget, when it eats into savings we should be setting aside for the kids, that's not just self-care anymore. That's irresponsibility. What frustrated me even more was the imbalance. I was working long hours, grinding to pay for everything, making sure bills were covered and the household ran smoothly. Meanwhile, she had structured her days around leisure, sleep, coffee, gym, shopping, while contributing very little financially. It felt less like a partnership and more like she was living off of me while enjoying the perks of a lifestyle we couldn't actually afford. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe she was lonely after the kids left for school. Maybe she needed to fill the hours with something. But if that were the case, why not volunteer? Why not take a part-time job? Why not pursue one of the businesswoman ideas she used to talk about when we were first married? Instead, the only consistent thing was the spending. Every credit card bill became a source of stress. Every time I logged into the bank account and saw another $100 gone for nails or lashes or clothes she'd wear once and never touch again, my frustration grew. It wasn't just about the money, it was about respect. Respect for the work I was doing to keep us afloat. Respect for the fact that we had responsibilities beyond personal luxuries. The more she brushed it off, the more I felt like she didn't care. Eventually, I knew I couldn't just sit back and watch anymore. Something had to change. Either she learned to get her spending under control, or we'd never be able to build the future we both said we wanted when we first got married. It all came to a head one evening when I sat down with the latest credit card statement. Another $1,200 gone in a single month, and most of it on clothes, salon visits, and beauty products. I remember sitting at the kitchen table with a paper in my hands, my stomach churning. I couldn't keep pretending this was fine. When she came into the room, cheerful and humming to herself, I knew I had to say something. I set the statement down in front of her and said, "We need to talk." She glanced at it, then at me, and immediately her smile disappeared. "What now?" I took a deep breath, trying to keep my tone calm. "This isn't sustainable. You spent over $1,000 again this month just on yourself. We have bills, savings, the kids' future to think about. We can't keep living like this." She rolled her eyes and pushed the paper aside. "Oh my God, you're being dramatic. It's not like we're broke. That's not the point," I said firmly. "The point is we need to get on a budget and actually stick to it. And if you can't do that, then I'm left with two options. Either you get a job to cover your spending, or I put you on an allowance so the money doesn't get out of hand." Her head snapped up. "An allowance? Are you serious? What am I, a child?" I held my ground. "No, you're my wife, but we're supposed to be partners. And right now, I feel like I'm carrying the financial load while you're burning through money we don't have to spare. If you want to spend like that, fine, but then contribute. Get a job. Bring in income. Otherwise, we need boundaries." Her face flushed with anger. "If you wanted a working wife, you should have married a hard-working girl instead of me." The words stung. I reminded her of the early days of our marriage, how she used to talk about becoming a businesswoman, about her big ambitions. What happened to that? You had all these plans, all these dreams. What changed? You told me you wanted to work. She scoffed. "You're unbelievable. I take care of the kids, I keep this house running, and you have the nerve to call me lazy? You're ungrateful." "I'm not ungrateful," I shot back. "I'm realistic. The kids are in school all day now. You have time. If you don't want to work, fine, but then we need to be financially responsible. We can't keep spending like this." That's when she slammed her hand on the table and snapped. "Then divorce me." The room went silent after that. I sat there, stunned, the words echoing in my ears. Divorce? Over asking her to budget? Over trying to talk about money like adults? I hadn't expected her to throw that grenade. She stormed out of the kitchen, leaving me sitting there with the credit card statement still in my hands. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just about money anymore. It was about respect, responsibility, and whether we were even on the same page about what it meant to build a life together. After she threw out the words, "Then divorce me," I just sat there frozen. It was like the floor had been pulled out from under me. Divorce wasn't something we tossed around casually in arguments. For her to say it so quickly, so carelessly, made my chest tighten. I called after her as she stormed down the hallway. "Is that really what you want? Over a budget?" She didn't answer. A few minutes later, I heard the bedroom door slam. For the rest of the night, we barely spoke. I stayed in the living room, staring at the numbers on the credit card bill, trying to wrap my head around how a conversation about finances had exploded into threats of ending our marriage. The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened. She got the kids ready for school, kissed them goodbye, and once they were on the bus, she poured herself a coffee and sat at the table scrolling on her phone. It was like the blow-up from the night before had been erased from her memory. I tried again cautiously. "We need to finish the conversation from last night." She sighed dramatically. "Here we go again. You just can't let it go, can you?" I kept my voice as calm as I could. "This isn't about controlling you. It's about us being responsible. We can't afford for you to spend like this every month. It's not fair to me, and it's not sustainable for the family." Her eyes snapped up, full of fire. "So now I'm unfair? Now I'm a burden?" "I didn't say that." "That's what you mean," she interrupted, her voice rising. "You think I'm lazy. You think I'm useless. You think I sit around doing nothing while you're the big provider. You don't appreciate me at all." Her words cut deep because they weren't true. I did appreciate the things she did, keeping the house running, being there for the kids, all of it. But I couldn't ignore that her daily routine left so much room for more. And instead of contributing, she had turned it into endless self-indulgence. "I just want us to be on the same team," I said finally. "Right now, it feels like I'm the only one worrying about our future." She crossed her arms and glared at me. "You're making me out to be some gold digger or some lazy housewife. You married me knowing who I was. If you wanted some career-driven woman, you should have picked differently. Don't try to change me now." I reminded her again of her own words. How, early in our marriage, she had dreams of starting a business, of being independent. Those were your promises, not mine. I supported you. I believed in you. But you never even tried. She shot back. Because I realized I don't want to live my life chained to a desk like you do. I want to enjoy life. What's the point of working ourselves to death if we can't enjoy it? It felt like we were speaking two completely different languages. I was talking about security, responsibility, the kid's future. She was talking about freedom, enjoyment, living in the moment. And in the middle of that divide, our marriage was cracking. The fight ended with her storming out again, slamming the front door behind her. I sat there in the silence, wondering how we had gotten here. Was this the marriage I signed up for? Was this the partner I thought I had? What scared me most wasn't the money. It was the contempt in her voice, the way she twisted my words into accusations I hadn't even made. It was like she'd already decided I was the enemy, and nothing I said would change her mind. And for the first time, I wondered if maybe she meant it when she said, "Then divorce me." After that fight, I felt like something inside me cracked. Not completely broken, but a hairline fracture that I couldn't ignore. I sat in the quiet house after she stormed out, staring at the numbers on the credit card bill, and all I could think was, is this really what our marriage has become? It used to feel like we were partners. When we first started out, we both had dreams. I had career goals. She talked about becoming a businesswoman, building something of her own. I pictured us as a team, two people moving forward together, building a future not just for ourselves, but for our kids. But somewhere along the line, that vision faded, and I was the only one left carrying the load. I've tried to tell myself that being a stay-at-home mom is work. And it is when the kids are small, when every moment is chaos and you don't get a second to breathe. But now, our kids are in school all day. They're not toddlers needing constant attention. The house doesn't require 8 hours a day of upkeep. So what is she doing with her time? More and more, the answer seemed to be spending money. And it wasn't just the money. It was the attitude, the way she dismissed me when I tried to talk about a budget, the way she rolled her eyes and accused me of being dramatic, the way she threw out the word divorce like it was nothing, like ending our marriage was just another option on the table if she couldn't spend the way she wanted. That word haunted me. Divorce. Was that where we were headed? Part of me wanted to believe this was just a rough patch, that if we could sit down and really talk it through, we could get back on the same page. But another part of me wasn't so sure anymore, because to fix something, both people have to want to fix it. And lately, it felt like I was the only one even trying. I started to question myself too. Was I being too harsh? Was I wrong to bring up an allowance, to give her the ultimatum of either getting a job or sticking to a budget? Maybe I could have approached it more gently. Maybe I came across as controlling, even though that wasn't my intention. But then I'd look at the numbers again. $1,000, $1,500, month after month. Money we could be saving for braces, for college, for emergencies. Money that could be going toward building a future, not just fleeting indulgences. And I'd feel the frustration rise all over again. The truth is, I feel trapped between two equally painful options. On one hand, if I keep letting things slide, we're going to end up in financial trouble, and my resentment toward her will only grow. On the other hand, if I keep pushing, keep drawing lines in the sand, I risk pushing her further away, or maybe straight into the divorce she threatened. Neither outcome is what I want. I don't want to lose my marriage. I don't want to split up our family. But I also don't want to live like this, feeling like the only adult in the room, carrying the weight while she spends like money grows on trees. And so I sit here, caught in this limbo, asking myself the same question over and over. Am I being the responsible one, or am I becoming the villain in my own marriage? At this point, I feel like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. I don't want to control my wife, but I also can't sit back and watch her spend hundreds, sometimes over 1,000, every month on luxuries when we have real responsibilities to think about. I work hard to support our family, and it hurts to feel like the effort I put in doesn't matter, that she can just roll her eyes and call me dramatic when I bring up finances. I don't think it's unreasonable to ask for a budget. I don't think it's unfair to suggest she either reins in the spending or contributes by getting a job. And if neither of those is an option, then the only way forward I can see is to set some boundaries by putting her on allowance, something I never wanted to do, but feel forced into considering. But then there's her reaction, the anger, the accusations of being ungrateful, the way she threw "then divorce me" into the conversation like it meant nothing. It makes me wonder if I crossed a line, if my words came across harsher than I intended. So now I'm left questioning myself. AITA for telling my wife she either needs to get a handle on her spending, get a job, or accept being put on allowance.